Do today is talk about preservation, and I would like to talk about the history of electronic music and a lot of these
Great.
instruments that you're going to see. And
Okay.
if you look over my shoulder, actually, come over here for a second. I'm going to introduce you to Vince Jr., who's not going to be able to hear anything that you're saying, but come on in for a second. You can see yourself in there.
Vince, how you
This is this,
doing?
this is a guy Dennis says his best.
Nice to meet
This is
you.
the guy that I work with all day long.
Okay.
Uh, um, and he just got a very important instrument all fired up for us. We're going to go in there in a little while and take a look at
Okay.
it.
Great.
So, thank you very much. He's got a hammer in his hand, so I don't want to mess with him. We're as an organization, this collection started off as a private collection that got really, really out of hand. And our curator, Vince Papillo Sr., decided at a certain point, right about 8 years ago, to become a nonprofit organization. And
Okay.
he started on a mission of collecting and curating the collection. So it's not just a collection of stuff; it's actually a very focused, curated collection. And what we're doing right now is we are growing into an actual proper museum, and that's very exciting for us. And it's not easy,
I
um,
imagine.
and
I know. I
it's
see.
and it's a growing thing. I mean, and it has to happen in a certain manner, and it's wonderful, it's exciting, and it's frustrating, which is exactly what you expect. So what we've been doing, and the reason that Vince Jr. had a hammer in his hand, is because we're converting what when you were here, on your two visits, everything was
Right.
on display. Now we're creating proper exhibits.
Okay.
So we're gathering instruments, either to exhibit in a chronological order, or by brand, or by style, or all of the above. So it's a fun time right now as we kind of tear apart this gigantic room that
Yeah.
we're in, kind of rebuild it.
Mm.
And we used to have a hallway, which you've been in, the famous,
Right.
it's got all the signatures on it,
Right.
which really was just a place to store the instruments. Now is becoming proper exhibits. So
Oh,
we're
okay.
pushing and pulling, and we're getting ready to take our collection of mellotrons and chamberlins, which are tape-based instruments. Like each key has a tape.
Right.
I know you know that. I don't know if
Well,
everybody else knows that.
right.
And when I say those things are heavy, I mean those things are heavy. I mean literally heavy. you
I'm
know,
sure.
they weigh a ton. They didn't really care too much about how much they weighed, because they were meant to go into your grandmother's living room. Uh, they weren't meant to go on the road, but they certainly went out on the road with bands
Oh,
like
they did.
Genesis and Moody Blues and King Crimson and everybody else. So we have a very, very rare Mark One Mellotron downstairs that I'm really nervous about moving.
Oh, boy.
It's dead mint.
Huh.
And when I say there are a few of these, I think we might have the only one, or there might be another I haven't seen yet, but we'll look into that. But what you're looking at over my shoulder is a collection of EMS gear,
Oh,
including
yeah.
a Cynthia 100, a VCS3, the AKS, and a whole bunch of other interesting instruments, including an EMS polysynthi, which we just rebuilt in our hospital. And and I haven't played it yet. There's a couple instruments here that I really want to sit down for a solid hour and mess with. We just finished rebuilding a Hammond Nova chord,
Oh, boy.
and not just making it work. Our technicians rebuilt it to the 1939 standard, and it took months and months and months. And I sat down and played it for a couple minutes, but it's an amazingly unique instrument, and then so far ahead of its time technologically, and we have
Now
two
the
of them
now the viewer would like to know before we go, where do you find these instruments? I mean, how do
right over
you
there, right over there.
I mean, where okay, you
Here,
go
come on, that was
online
funny.
and
The direct answer is there is a network of individuals that keep their eyes open for us for certain grades
okay.
and certain
I,
types of
I see.
instruments. So right now we're surrounded by synthesizers and electric pianos and clavinets in this room, but we also have a colossal collection of tube amplifiers, speaker
Uh,
cabinets, early PA gear, and an untold quantity of Hammond organs. And a lot of the gear has provenance. So a lot of this stuff from the rock stars. On the guitar end of it comes from a
Right.
handful of people in London. And then we've got other people on the West Coast that are looking out for us.
I
And of
see.
course, the curator is online constantly trying to find the missing links, the gems. And it's a constant process. And then of course, authenticating the items as much as we can before they arrive, and then
Right.
authenticating them for real when they do arrive is a process of its own as well.
Are most of these not working, or that you have to actually fix, or do you have some that are in perfect condition and just like, wow, they play? Because they're so old, probably some of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That must be
The
a task.
Well, it is, and the direct answer is we have a space. It's the room behind me. We call it the hospital, and we have a crew that comes in one day every 2 weeks
Okay.
to keep everything alive. There's a process that we have to go through. Um, if there's an instrument that we just took on and it has not been fired up in a number of years, the
Right.
worst possible thing we could do is plug it in and turn it on, because capacitors go bad, and they will
Right.
let go of their magic blue smoke. And when they let go of their magic
Oh
blue
boy.
smoke, bad things happen. So what we do is we take them through a process where the technicians test the power supplies inside to make sure that the signal the power supplies are putting out is clean, because a
Oh,
dirty power can take out everything down the line.
I'm
For instance,
sure.
this
Interesting.
behemoth behind me has 5 power supplies inside of it. Five.
Wow. 5.
And as we go through the rebuild of the Synthi
Jeez.
100, we start with the power supplies. Now, they
Okay.
just finished that. They finished that just about 2 months ago.
Okay.
And next month, we're going to be taking this guy out and rolling it into the hospital. And it'll probably be in there for a year as
Wow.
it goes through a rebuild. And then guitar amplifiers are the same way. I mean,
Sure.
you know, it's so the direct answer is the majority. I don't even know how to answer this. The majority of the instruments function. Certain
Right.
instruments we put a lot of attention into because we want them to work perfectly, because we use these instruments. They're not just here for looks.
Okay.
So
Oh,
for instance, I'm sitting across the room from an EML Electrocomp 400 401, which is a synthesizer and sequencer package. And we wanted it up and working, and we want it to work perfectly. The problem is that, I can actually hang up for a second. I'll spin this around and show you guys this.
oh
If I'm
yeah,
talking.
we'd love to see that. Oh,
Schwing.
okay.
Hey, that didn't work.
It's okay. Oh, look at that.
So there's the EML,
Right.
and the problem that we have is the sequencer side of it over yonder.
Right.
They don't make these slide potentiometers anymore, and they are truly a unique size. So we were unable to rebuild it using the original parts. So Allison Stout, who is our head technician that does this kind of work, was able to come up with a means by which we could modify um, the instrument to handle current potentiometers. So now this
Right.
machine is 100% working, and we're very excited about it.
That's
So,
it.
and then sometimes, certain instruments you just can't get parts for, and that's a tricky situation. So sometimes we have to modify things to work. And then there's also some instruments that we will never uh, fire up. And I'll
Okay.
just take you over here to this
Oh, look at
particular.
this.
So, Dennis, I know you've seen this instrument. This is well, these are all Oberheim SEM based
Right. Right.
synthesizer expander mod type of the 4 voice. And it was sold to Stevie Wonder, who
Okay.
applied Braille Dymo labels. And the masking
Oh,
tape you see on here
look at
was so
that.
Stevie could find his way around it. Well, here's the thing. Is it right to fire this instrument up? Uh, when we talk about this,
Right.
we know what the SEM sounds like. We know what the 4 voice sounds like. So this particular instrument, because it's a prototype, perhaps it's in our best interest to not fire it up. The same thing goes, for instance, with the Mini Moog prototypes. The Mini Moog prototype A is modules from a Moog modular. Well,
Right.
we have those modules in the form of other modular synthesizers. So we're not going to rebuild that instrument. We're not going to fire it up. We want to keep it in its purest form. The same thing with the Model B, which is also modules, but the Model C is
Right.
all original electronics designed by Jim Scott, and a handful of other people, of course.
Right.
And but we're still not going to fire that one up because of its rarity. So the process is we select the instruments that need to be rebuilt and reworked, and they go through a process. Right now, the crew has been working on our effects pedal collection. I think we probably have in excess of 2,500 effects. And the shocking thing is the number of them that come in with 9-volt batteries or 6-volt batteries that have been in there for decades. And that's the death of
yeah, imagine.
And the same thing with these synthesizers. I mean, here, I'll tell you a funny story, and I don't remember this gentleman's name, and I apologize, but
that's okay.
We put a picture up of a very rare Buchla 400 synthesizer, just because we wanted to show people and kind of talk about it. And this guy posts, open it immediately. The battery is leaking all over the board.
Oh,
like, okay, wait, what? So we open it up, and there's the battery leaking all over the boards. And he goes, that's just simply what happens with this thing. So it's actually out at his place right now, and it's getting rebuilt. And that one will take, it's been gone for 2 years. It'll probably take another 2 years to get it back in full operation. But then we'll have a Buchla 400. What's cooler than that, right?
You have an incredible Moog collection. I've never seen anything like it. I mean,
it's beautiful. Yeah.
It is. It really is. You see it. It's like you have every model, first model all the way up. It's phenomenal.
It's Vince has done an amazing job putting that together. And we take it very seriously. Robert Moog is very, very important to us, and certainly to the history of synthesizers.
Absolutely.
And so we really do celebrate his life and his efforts, and we support the Bob Moog Foundation and the Moog Museum, as we encourage everybody to do. And if you're ever down in Asheville, North Carolina, make sure you stop off at the Moog Museum and check it out, and buy some of their merch, and say hello to his daughter Michelle.
Yeah.
And all the good people down there. It's fantastic. And we also, we support the Alan R. Perlman Foundation. Alan R. Perlman being ARP synthesizers.
Okay, right. Okay.
And we're coming up on a very important birthday celebration for Alan next year, and we're very excited about it. A big part of what we're doing here as well is, you see the stuff here, but we're starting to personify this place a little bit more. So when you see this collection of Oberheims I just showed you,
right?
Yes, they are Oberheims. They're very important synthesizers, and we know and love them. But it's Tom Oberheim that we celebrate. And over here are these beautiful Prophet synthesizers, the sequential circuits. We're celebrating Dave Smith, Peter Zinoviev, and Cockerell for the EMS, and we're starting to really get behind the instruments and look at the people and the brains that created them, because the instruments are fantastic. But let's talk about why Dave Smith did this and how Dave Smith did this. Let's talk about Dave Smith, not just, Prophet 5s and 10s, which we can talk about all day long quite happily.
Right. The Prophet 5 is all over 80s music. I mean, it's everywhere.
It sure is. It's a very important instrument. And now that, if we're talking about the Prophet 5, let me just walk up with my gigantic thumb here.
Sure.
And, show you guys.
Yeah, we'd love to see.
So, of course, the Prophet 5 is a polysynth. This is a very special one. I've got to make sure my tripod doesn't slam into another synth.
I see that.
It's got the power switch on the front of it. So this is one of the very, very earliest ones in a beautiful wooden box.
Oh, yeah.
And then there is a standard production Prophet 5. And then, of course, we've got the Prophet 10.
Right.
But even freakier, you see the Prophet 10 down here with its 2 keyboards.
I see that.
Check this one out. There's a Prophet 10 with 1 keyboard, right?
Right.
Didn't work. Overheated, right? So that's why they created the 2 keyboard Prophet 10.
Oh, look.
And since I got the camera facing forward, let me make
a
couple adjustments on the tripod.
Sure.
Here. I'll show you guys around a little bit while we're in here.
I think
we're just now. Go ahead.
This is beautiful.
This is Vince Jr.'s been shuffling things around here, so we're starting to centralize we have so many Roland synthesizers. So we're
Ugh.
finally starting to centralize them. And then you saw the EML Electrocomp. We're
Yeah,
now
look at
starting to
that.
put a whole vertical of these beautiful EML instruments, including Frank Zappa's Sin Key. Kind of cool.
Oh, okay. Look
And
at
then we
that
got
box.
a little bit of ARP action over yonder,
Yep.
including a clear Odyssey.
Never seen that. Boy.
String ensemble, property of Universal Studios. How crazy is that?
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, we got some PPG stuff happening over here. A pile of rack mount synthesizers, some very rare ones. And this, of course, is not really ready. I shouldn't even be showing you guys this because
Right.
it's a little messy.
That's okay.
Technos Excel.
Look at that.
All right. Crazy.
That is.
2200 touch sensitive LEDs. It's an
Oh,
additive
boy.
synth.
What look sounds you could get out of that.
It's an interesting instrument, to say
Imagine.
the least. A bunch of tape-based instruments. The Mellotron
There
400,
it
of course,
is.
very popular instrument. A couple of Chamberlins, Bobby Darin's Chamberlin,
Oh,
and some very cool electric
right.
pianos.
I see that.
We're assembling the history of string machines,
Okay.
starting with the unique the home organ that kind of changed everything with ensembles, and the Orchestron by Vaco, David Van Koevering, the
Oh,
Freeman
wow.
string synthesizer. John
Right.
John Chowning. We're going to talk about John Chowning for a second. John Chowning is the gentleman that discovered FM digital synthesis, and we have
Oh,
some of the results of his work, including a GS1, which is a very, 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 very rare instrument,
okay.
and of course the DX1, a
Yep.
DX7 Centennial,
Yeah, that was a big
and we were
instrument,
talking.
that DX7. That was very popular.
Do you think so? Right. And of course, the CS80. This is not
That's
Chowning
it.
era
Wow.
Yamaha, but this is a
That's
dead mint example of a beautiful, beautiful instrument.
beautiful. That's a rare instrument.
And then over
DS.
yonder, we've got the Elka Synthex because, oh yeah, that's the '80s lush poly synth.
Oh, that must sound beautiful.
Over here we have a Centaur. You see if I can
Wow.
even get to this, which is a beautiful instrument, a very, very early
Okay.
guitar. And we have its cohort. See if I can even find it. It's not in here.
Oh,
We
that's all
have
right.
something called a Swan, which is a Centaur without a neck. Well, it's in here someplace. I don't know where it is. Kind of crazy. Let me
That is. It's so much
get,
stuff. It's great.
get this back in order here. All right.
Yeah.
And that comes back up, and now we're back in action again. And this is just one of many rooms. We actually have 16 different exhibit spaces within the building.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is great. And the Moog room, I don't know if our Wi-Fi would allow me to go up there,
That's okay.
but if we're feeling it, maybe we can steal away and see if it works.
And what about the Keith Emerson synthesizer? I think everybody would love to see that.
Yeah, I'll take you in there in just a second. Vince Jr.
Sure.
just got that all fired up. It's a very special instrument,
It,
and it was certainly a milestone when Vince Sr. was able to land the instrument here.
huh.
And you know, it's losing Keith Emerson was horrible, certainly for everybody. And we're so proud to have it here. We have an awful lot of Keith's gear here. We have his three of his Hammond organs, the
Oh,
Tarkus Hammond organ and the Pictures at an Exhibition Hammond organ. Both of them were customized by Al Goff, who keeps the rock
I
and jazz
remember that.
world going, right? A very good human being and a good friend of EMEAP as well. And then we also have, hey, let's go for a walkie. Hang on for a second.
Sure.
Let's see how the Wi-Fi. We just put a whole new Wi-Fi system in the building,
Okay.
so we haven't tested it yet, but hopefully, let's walk into a little
I love this
Emerson,
room.
Lake
I
and
remember
Palmer event.
this.
Right? So, uh, Vince Senior, the curator, is a huge fan of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, as we all are here, right?
Yep.
So this is where a lot of their gear has ended up, and we're
Oh,
actually going to hopefully be setting up a new exhibit in a larger space. This is a lobby for our main studio room.
right.
And what we have here is Greg Lake's late 60s Fender bass and some of his gear here and a lot of his stage worn clothing. that was thoughtfully donated by a fan. And I'm just shrinking down my tripod here. Hang on for a second.
Yeah, that's going to make an amazing museum collection that
Oh, you
people
better
love.
believe it.
Oh, they'll go
So
crazy over that.
this is something that I love to show people and tell the story.
Huh.
Many people don't know that Keith Emerson was in a band called The Best.
Huh.
And The Best had some rock stars in it. Well, certainly, right? Keith
Right.
Emerson. The bass player was John Entwistle from The Who.
Oh, I didn't
The
know that.
guitarists were Jeff Skunk Baxter from the Doobie Brothers and Joe Walsh at his drunkest. Um, and Simon Phillips on the drums, and a gentleman whose name I can't remember, and I feel horrible about it, was the vocalist. And they only did like 9 gigs or so. I'm just coming over here to turn on some lights or turn up some lights for you guys.
And what year was that? I don't remember any. Was that after the ELP?
Yeah, I don't recall exactly the year it was, but
Okay.
it was before Joe Walsh cleaned up for the Eagles.
Okay.
I can tell you that much. But go on to YouTube and check the band out, because I mean, seriously, that's a lot of rock star firepower there, to say
Oh,
the
I'm
least,
sure
right?
it is.
And
Man.
we also have I can actually show you the instrument, but this frame right here is a picture of Keith Emerson's L100 organ, one of his stabby ones that he would stab with the knives.
Right.
The boss was very unhappy with the fact that it was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame never embraced Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and barely embraced progressive rock.
That's true.
So it took a long time, but he was able to uh, extract it from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That is
And
something.
then now it's here with all of Keith's gear. And speaking of Keith's stuff, this is a lot of Keith's stuff. This is
Oh, look at that.
his main travel wardrobe, an awful lot of his personal stuff, which is it's cool.
Right.
It's unusual. But what happened is when we started taking delivery of a lot of Keith's stuff, a lot of his personal stuff ended up getting donated and brought into the collection. And it's fascinating. A lot of the vests and leather coats that you see in here, you've seen in a lot of his pictures. We
Oh,
have
I
bits
see
and
that.
pieces of some of his early onstage costumes and outfits. One of his early preset switches for his Moog synthesizer. Here, this one will blow your mind. Of all things,
Yeah.
we have Keith Emerson's ukulele.
Oh, that's funny.
Isn't that awesome, right?
That is crazy.
And a number of his 88 key controllers, as I try to make a little space here, because
Wow.
he loved the big 88 key controllers, and some of his foot switches as well from his setups. And here is another one of his L100 organs. This is
Oh, yeah.
his
Wow.
final one. It's still in beautiful condition, right?
Wow. That's so.
Because he beat those things up, right? And then right on top of it is a mini Moog. We do a lot of mini Moogs in this building, and this one is very
Right.
special because it's a split mini Moog. It's 2 separate components. So the keyboard could be placed in his setup ergonomically, and then the brain, as it were, or the synthesizer part of it could be elsewhere. We have an original hand-built Tarkus statue.
Oh,
This
look at
travels
that.
with key stuff everywhere here, right?
That is something.
Yeah, isn't that amazing stuff?
Beautiful.
And I'll show you guys Keith's big Moog in a moment, but
Yes.
I'm going to turn the corner since we happen to be here. And I'm taking you into the control room, and hopefully we don't lose you guys.
Right.
And this is where we do, if you've ever seen any of the EME app videos, this is where we do all of our work. This room was built with the assistance of the Theodore Presser Foundation, who graciously hooked us up with a grant that allowed us to get this up and going. And
Oh, look at that.
this room is not just a control room; it's also an exhibit space. Let me come over here and dim up some lights so you guys can actually see
Look
this.
at that.
I live in the dark, you know what I mean?
There
I'm definitely a musician, right? I'm like a
you
mole.
go.
So I'll show
Beautiful.
you a little bit what's happening here. In this rack here in front of us, we have this mixing board right over here,
Right.
which is a part of the Rolling Stones mobile unit.
Oh,
So this is 8 of the 20 channels from that board. Lenny Kravitz has the remaining channels. And this recorded the drums for Won't Get Fooled Again. It recorded Zeppelin 2, 3, and 4, Houses of the Holy, Sticky Fingers by the Rolling Stones,
Oh, wow.
and Machine Head by Deep Purple, including
I,
the song Smoke on the Water, where they sing about the rolling truck Stones
oh,
sing just
right.
like
I see that.
a bunch of Greg Lake's gear, John Lennon and Ringo Starr. The compressor on top, the DVX, was used in the making of the song Imagine.
That's amazing.
A custom Electrodyne console that used to belong to Neil Young and was used for a lot of his live shows and recordings. A Fairlight Series 3,
Oh, how
which,
about, I
you know,
remember that.
yeah, come on, man. What a beast. Recently, a good friend of ours loaded it up with sounds, and we're looking forward to firing it up. This is something you didn't see. Let me move the chair because
Yeah.
it'll make it a
Let's see.
little bit easier. We we we're building a hi-fi system with Macintosh gear. So these two Macintosh tube amplifiers were just rebuilt along with this beautiful preamplifier, and we are putting together a full Macintosh system to be able to listen to it. Because why wouldn't we, right?
Look at
A
that.
whole bunch of small mixing boards, including 2 channels from Olympic Studios, and then a number of tape machines, including Frank
Jeez, look at,
Zappa's MM1200, which is very special. This one will be wired up and in use. Neil Young's ATR 102 mastering deck, and this very early MM1000 Ampex, which was the first commercially available 16-track 2-inch
oh,
machine.
was it? Wow.
But the
Yep.
interesting thing is, it was sold to us under the auspices of it being Jimi Hendrix's machine, which, of course, come on, let's be realistic. So we had this over at our other location, and I had read an article that Jimi Hendrix and Chaz Chandler, in fact, bought the first 4 of these machines. And I drove over and took a look at it, and it is serial number 4. So I'm going to reach out to Electric Lady in New York, who's still in
Yeah.
business at Jimmy's studio, and find out how did it get separated from the studio, and we'll
Yeah.
authenticate it. Then we got this stuff.
Look at that.
So what we have here is a lot of wow.
Good.
The gigantic machine being an ARP 2500 synthesizer that instead of using patch cables, it uses these slide matrix, and you
Oh, I
can
like that. Look at
you can choose
that.
what bus you want it to go on, and then it'll talk to everything across the whole line
Man.
instead of a patch cable, and it's got one patch set for audio and one patch set for control voltage. It's a cool system for patching, and it kind of comes along with one little nightmare.
What's
And the
that?
nightmare is the fact that there is crosstalk, meaning that, like with the hard patch cable, it connects, right? That's what it does. You're connecting this to that. With the matrix style of patching, it bleeds. so,
Oh, man.
so it's a little bit inconsistent and unstable, but that's kind of half the joy
I'm
of
sure it
working on
is.
500. So if
Right.
you're looking for precision, you may or may not get it, depending on the on on the
Look at
condition of the
that.
machine.
Wow.
And
That
then
is
up on
something.
top, it's a gorgeous machine, isn't it? Then up on top, you see a
Oh,
pair of
it is.
2600s, and the 2600 on the left. Let me just make sure. I always get this one back. Hang on for 1 second.
Jeez, look at that.
Yeah, this one used to belong to Jack Bruce from Cream.
Oh, okay.
And the rack that you see it all sitting on was donated to us by the Wu-Tang Clan, the hip hop act.
Right.
They had finished up their shooting their series in Brooklyn, and they had a recording studio set. And a very good friend of ours who is in the art realm of movie making asked RZA if he would be willing to donate it, and they painted it flat black as we requested and trucked it down here the next day. Very, very
Wow.
cool, guys. And then what you see in the rack is some of David Gilmour's gear, some Greg Lake gear, some Frank Zappa gear. And here, I'll even show you this, because why wouldn't I? Hang on for a second. Come over here. Move a chair. This is what I spent half my life doing, it seems. And forgive the trash can. But to the immediate right-hand side of the trash can is this big space heater, which is actually a 1976 EMT 250 digital reverb
Oh,
and
wow.
delay
Look
unit.
at that. That's
Very
pretty
special
wild.
machine. Really, really
Looks it.
rare. And it's got 80 power transistors in it. We call it a space heater because it is a space heater. And it fully works and sounds amazing. Very special piece. So this one will be wired up as one of our effects in the room. Over here, this gray unit on top, let me put this down here and I'll touch it. This guy right here recently came in from the band Genesis. This is one of their
Oh,
main
right.
analog to digital converters.
Right.
We also got their radar recording system, one of
Jeez.
their Studer 24 tracks, and one of their mastering machines, and a whole bunch of their other gear as well. And that'll all end up on display.